Right. So you saw some examples from around the house, of course, right, of my multiple selves. When you talk about that's referring to high complexity at that point, I was trying to give you some real examples of what complexity means, and you'll see why. So the next C of the three C's is consistency, all right? And consistency means that it looks at the degree to which our multiple selves, the ones I just gave you examples of, require compatible personality traits or values. Okay, so you probably hear my call again. So examples could be, let's look at these some of the roles I just identified. If we have high consistency, that would mean that my multiple roles require compatible personality traits and or values, and perhaps they do, right? Lecturer, researcher, educator, let's go educator, researcher, video gamer, father, right? Those things require, to some degree, I would say, exclusion, right? If we go back to personality, of course, thinking back to one of the dimensions, I can think it to other dimensions, maybe agreeableness, okay? So having to communicate with students, communicate with my daughter, communicate with gamers online, right? It does require some degree of outgoing and an outgoing nature and friendliness. So it requires most of the roles seem to require those personality traits, and maybe even in terms of values, some degree of achievement. Okay, so when we talk about values and those seeking achievements, then certainly video games cater to that, right? They have actual achievements in these games. Uh, academia, my work-related roles cater to align with the values of achievement, certainly, because publishing, research certainly appeals to my value of achievement. And then even raising a kid, that to some extent could also align with my values of achievement, right? So yeah, I would say they certainly do have high consistency if I were to think about myself, and I'm going to ask you to think about yourself as well. The final one is fairly straightforward, and that is clarity. And this is how confident we are in our roles, about who we are then, right? How do I feel about who I am? And clarity refers to how confident we are about that. So how confident am I about being an educator? Maybe when I was 19 years old and teaching in a secondary school, I wasn't so confident back then. I wasn't even sure if that was what I really was cut out for. And therefore, I would say that my clarity was fairly low, right? But as time went on, and having spent many years in education and enjoying the whole process of educating persons any age, right, about certain concepts, certainly it is something I'm much clearer about. And that is just an example that aligns with research as well, which shows that clarity certainly increases with age. We become more confident about who we are as we grow older, generally speaking, right? We are more likely to remember we're talking about probabilities, okay? So, God, I can't even hold a camera properly. All right, so yeah, those are the three C's: complexity, consistency, and clarity. And why are they important? Well, research shows us that when persons have highly complex, high complexity, high consistency, and high clarity, they tend to experience better well-being, right? And that could make sense, right? I think for me personally, I think I have some higher level of complexity in terms of who I am, in terms of the multiple and distinct roles, although there's high consistency as well, and even some high clarity. So that could, of course, contribute to increased well-being, which in turn influences a number of desirable outcomes at work. So for employees who satisfy that criteria of high complexity, high consistency, high clarity, they are also more likely to experience better well-being, thus higher levels of motivation, task performance, maybe even OCBs at work. We know well-being is related to a host of positive outcomes at work, and therefore it is something that many organizations are trying to achieve. Right. Those are the three C's, and I wanted to sort of give you one comprehensive example. And I thought, what better comprehensive example than the one that I'll show you now, okay? So hold on.